mean Mean Girls. And I don't mean the movie.
Ouch.
Anyways, we're joined here with Lydia Ahrens, a therapist here at Mindshift Center.
Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day you're listening in.
Yes, so Mean Girls, like this is a real thing.
Yes.
And so where are we going to start with this? Because that's a whole lot. We can go a lot of different directions with this.
No, I'll let y'all handle that.
Well, I think maybe just starting off talking about what do we mean when we're talking about Mean Girls and what do we not mean? So obviously a lot of times when we hear Mean Girls, the classic movie comes to mind. And really when we look at the way research looks at it, it's a relational aggression. And it's using different behaviors such as gossip, exclusion, putting other people down, the social media, ostracizing types of stuff as a weapon in relationships. So that's really what we're talking about is this relational aggression.
Which is really a newer term and perspective that came in the last, since the 90s. It always hasn't been there. So, you think about generationally, how things have changed and what we've learned and how culture has changed within relationships. And then also the introduction of social media and how that has changed.
Yes.
It's really kind of mainstreamed how relational aggression happens.
It has. And yet I wonder, as you were saying that, is it really something new, right? This relational aggression, or is this something that I think has been around historically as a way to navigate social circles? Because if we think about social maneuvering, then, and I think women historically, we've done this probably more so than men. Not to say that it's specific only to the female gender. What we typically know is that males oftentimes, their aggression is going to be more overt and physical versus what we would say the relational aggression is more covert, manipulative types of things. But if we look at, Bridgerton right now is hot, right? And those kinds of things. And I think one of the things that series has done has really captured in a way that has engaged more audiences than maybe previously. But even looking at Pride and Prejudice, a lot of us have liked that movie based on Jane Austen's work, which is how did women navigate those social circles? And honestly, that relational aggression is one of the key things that they use in a lot of different ways. So not saying it's okay, but I don't know. I would wonder if it's really a newer phenomena. I think it's always been there.
I think it's always been there, but I think the way and how we think about it and how we've learned about it and differentiating it from bullying.
Yes.
So more of the long-term, slowly progressive ways, it can build into something worse.
Right.
And because it's smaller steps and smaller things that can snowball, it's just easier for more people to adopt those behaviors into normal everyday patterns. If that makes it. So it's the education piece of it that we're learning and watching these behavioral patterns that we're more aware of.
Yes.
That's more recent than, yes, this has always been something that has existed in our society and something particularly women have had to learn to navigate.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I think studying it and understanding those behavioral patterns, differentiating it between bullying and seeing the similarities and the distinctions. And I also think something that you said earlier that has probably catapulted this to looking at it very differently, which is the social media. Because that is one of the things that we've seen having such a profound more impact on individuals is that there's no escape from it, right? Before you could just not go to that building or that place where other people may be doing that. But it's when we're looking at our teens and our young adults, like there's no way to escape it because it's literally in their hand everywhere they go. So.
Right. Well, and they, especially younger kids, are exposed to it and this whole world of things happening to them and around them, and they're not yet equipped to know what to do with it.
Right.
And so, when they start experiencing it in preschool or in early elementary, like they just aren't prepared to know. And so then you start seeing the things like social isolation, or they join in with the other people who are doing it to not become the one.
Right. There's so much to this. Like, when does it begin? When do we start seeing this? And then what are some of the reasons behind both the people who are using it and then the impact of those who are being targeted? So there's a lot to it. And there was something else you said, and I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole because Victorya will be like, not this episode.
Right.
But I was just reading today that another country has banned the use of social media for those younger than 16. So now there's like 4 countries. So Spain just added it. And I want to say France, Australia, and maybe Norway. It's another country. And I know that that's come up quite a bit on ours. And you're a big advocate, Victorya, as a young teen who really wanted social media.
Guys, I spent probably 2 days trying to get TikTok to take down one of my old accounts because I couldn't get into it. And it was from when I was in like 7th grade, maybe. And I was like, nope, we don't need this up anymore.
Yeah. So that hopefully is going to be one thing that may, as some other countries, that's sheltering them a little bit, but it's always been there. And what you just mentioned too is, when does this start? Which is, we know it starts as young as preschool.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever remember those days and if you ever had any experiences.
No, I think I was popular.
In preschool? In preschool?
Yeah, for sure.
We'll wait till we get to the other grades, right?
Yeah.
No. But what it can look like at that age, which is, we're not playing with you today. Or you're not invited to my birthday party. And geez, to those little ones, that can feel devastating. I don't know about you. I don't know what some of the schools around your area, since we live 30 minutes away, but I know almost all the, at least for my kids growing up, the rule was in elementary school in preschool, that if there was a birthday party, you could only give out invitations if everyone in the class was invited. Otherwise, no invitations were able to be given during school, which I really appreciated and liked, because of course they can't understand, why did they not get invited?
Right. And I think a lot of, at that stage, for me and my parenting, most parents, that was their natural. They knew, like, if they weren't inviting everyone, like it wasn't good to be passing out invitations in front of other kids. Right. And like, there was some social awareness around like what would be best for the kids as a whole,
right?
And how would you want your child treated?
Right.
So preschool, I mean, there was always those little things, but I don't feel like there were rules like that. There was just more like social awareness around it.
And even I think when the adult intervention is there, such as that type of example, that doesn't mean that when everybody shows up to the birthday party that they're feeling included.
Right.
And so that again, when you think about weaponizing those social relationships, well, I had to invite you, or, you know, things like that. Like that, those are still things that happen. And in some of the research, so we know it starts as young as preschool, but then certainly we see, you know, between 3rd and 6th grade, you know, that late childhood age, we see a lot of that, you know, emerge. And a part of me, I wonder too, and this gets into maybe a little bit of a different territory, but we forget sometimes what that latent age development is. And a big part of development in that 4th, 5th, and 6th grade is wordplay. And so this is where you'll start to see them, the rhyming, right? And like the girls play all the like hand, like down, baby, go down, you know, like those hand games. You're like, no, you don't remember that?
No, I remember that. That's not what the words were, but okay.
Yeah,
I
but
keep
I'm
wanting
just
to interject with the TikTok that I saw.
okay. Yeah.
Okay, because we were just talking about how like everyone in classes have to be included with stuff, right?
Right.
I was watching this TikTok, and this mom was like, well, these 3 or 5 girls were being mean to my daughter, so I'm bringing everyone in the class Starbucks except for those 3 or 5 girls, including the teacher, drops it off. I don't know where the class was at the time, but like everyone in the comments were like, yeah, you go, girl. And I'm like, no. Anyways.
Wow. Okay.
That was just my little I'm chronically online input. So
that's the part of it we kind of like briefly touched on, was just the culture of being mean and excluding people. And just like that, there is, you know, you have a decision point, right? And especially as a parent, you can either use it as a teaching moment and be like, yeah, that was really hurtful. And that's not okay. That's not a good way to treat people. And use that to educate and try to guide people in a different direction. Or you can feed into it and momentarily feel good about yourself.
Right.
And especially with social media, which is something that has progressively like been utilized not only as for kids, but adults as well. I would say from what I see, and I have sisters and a brother, and we're all raising kids in different areas. And I mean, it's everywhere. It's not just in one area. I think there are some areas where the culture is worse. But as adults, we feed into this. And part of it's protective, probably, right? We want to protect our child.
Yes.
But it's also like not having the ability to take a moment and be like, whew, like for our society, for our kids, this is not okay.
It's not. Like,
but it's also praised. So it's this it's a phenomenon of like momentary satisfaction.
Well, and I think even if it's put on there and I think you're always going to get those divergent views where any behavior is going to be validated. I think we're seeing a lot of that. But as you were explaining that, and I think I want to know a little bit more about this situation and what mom's thinking was, but it sounds like her child was excluded by these 3 other girls. So
3 or 5, I don't know.
3 or 5, whatever the number. So let me teach these little girls what it's like to be excluded. Like, okay, being real here.
And then
as a mom,
teachers in the comments were like, yeah, this wouldn't fly in my classroom. And everyone was attacking them. They were like, okay, so you're part of the problem.
No. So several things here. Let's talk from a mom's perspective. If you had come home and said that, would I have wanted to do something like that? Yeah, I'm snarky enough. I'm, maybe I'm just not that good of a person initially because my emotion mind would kick in. And I'm like, oh, girl, how could they not want to include you? Because you're the most amazing human being in the world, right? Like as a mom.
Absolutely. That's your first reaction is to protect.
Right. And defend. And it's
Absolutely.
like, oh, and so what could I do? And then I would hope within a few minutes, I would go there probably in my mind, but within a few minutes, like, okay, these are young girls. And I would be thinking, like, this wouldn't help you so much. And I would try to think, what could I say to help you? But what's going on? We know that people change friendships. Though, we see that especially 6th, 7th, 8th grade, you're going to see a big friendship shift.
Right.
People at that age, their values, their interests start to be different. We see another big shift around 15, 16, especially that's where you're going to get more values with alcohol use, drug use, sex, things like that. And then again, you'll see that shift after high school as people move into different roles. So that can be a really hard time when a kid is not included with their friends because some interests have shifted. So I'm going to be curious as a mom in that situation. Like after I have my initial I can't believe they didn't include you, right? You join an emotion mind to validate your kiddo, but I'd be like, I'm curious, what was going on with your friends? What were they doing in that moment? Like what, that you felt like you weren't included. So I'd want to be curious about this situation.
It's not that she wasn't included, it's that they were being mean.
Oh, they were being mean, yes. Downright mean.
Apparently. I don't know.
Yeah. So I would want to know more about that experience. And so, but adult intervention is absolutely important. But to me, even if I might have, I don't know that I would have thought about bringing everybody Starbucks and excluding them because, that costs probably quite a bit of money. And I wouldn't know what to get everyone. And I don't know that the teacher should have allowed that. Like, how do you just wheelie in 20, 30 Starbucks
Well, there
cups?
was no one in there at the time.
Oh, and they just left it?
She reported putting it in there.
Okay.
There was no one in there.
Regardless, when I think of a grown adult woman, I wanted to throw a negative word in there too, but a grown woman who I'm going to intentionally create a situation that ostracizes and potentially ridicules these other young children that are the age of my own children. That's messed up to a different level, right? Instead, it would be like, who would you like to include? Where are your friends? Who do you have that's being nice to you? Because if those girls are being mean, that is a reflection of them. Does it still hurt? Absolutely, right? And we talk about the relational aggression causing bruises. It hurts. And so we want to support. But the adult intervention from the parent and the teacher is going to be paramount. That's how we know. And especially if that meanness and if there's any... So not all mean girl stuff also meets the criteria of bullying, right? Bullying has intention behind it. There is a repeated pattern with bullying. And usually there's a power differential, whether it's physical, social, something like that. Whereas relational aggression is really weaponizing those. So these 3 to 5 girls are ganging up and we're going to like each other because you're amazing. And then somebody's on the outs. And this is what happens all the time. And then there might be the one leader who sort of, and you usually see this on movies, and I think this happens in real life too. There's one person who sort of maneuvers this and is in charge of this. And so these other kiddos sort of fall in line and ostracize, gossip, do whatever, and they're the ones also causing the harm. And sometimes they're doing that out of fear of not being the one on the outs and being on the targeted end. So there's so much to this that sometimes you got to join so that you're not on the receiving end, which is all messed up. But as an adult, where are we at? Where are we having conversations? I would like to think, depending on the situation, like if I would want to talk with the teacher, like, hey, just want to let you know this is sort of going on. Don't know what you can do, because sometimes teachers cannot hear and see everything. They've got their own role and responsibility to do, but certainly if they are seeing those things, I would hope that they are intervening because we know that is considered a protective factor and paramount into how the kid on the receiving end is perceiving that. But I would, as a mom, if it was my kid who was the one doling it out, I would absolutely want a parent to call me.
Absolutely. And have that open line of communication and And just have a self-awareness around, like, we are all imperfect.
We are.
And we all make mistakes. And we all make choices that in our minds seem to make sense.
Yeah.
But when a situation happens or when the words come out, it's just wrong.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's really the challenge to us as adults and as moms and professionals, parents, like we need to be open to the imperfections and be open to the honest conversations, you know, not the emails or text messages or, you know, whatever social media outlet to communicate, but like go back to like having an in-person conversation about like what's hard, what's challenging, like what we're struggling with, and like just the community part of it.
Right. Well, and I think it's how we do that, right? Because I would want a parent just to like, hey, I want you to know that this is what I'm hearing. And I think this is where we don't have a lot of open lines of communication in our community amongst our parents because one, we've got to defend, and so therefore we have to attack.
Right.
And so, you know, if I'm taking my daughter's side and I'm going to call this other parent, I'm like, your daughter, like, da-da-da-da-da, and that's attacking versus like, hey, you know, I just want to let you know, this is what my daughter's saying. I'm trying to help on this end. If you can have some conversations, you know, don't know really what's happening, but obviously something's there. But as a parent, I would want to hear that because I want those opportunities to help my kids grow. And because kids are going to do things, they're going to say things, they're going to do things, they're not always going to get it right. That's how they learn to navigate this world. And I don't think I think two things. I think we don't give kids enough space to make mistakes. And so we've got this whole fear of messing up and, you know, talk about raising an anxious generation and things like that. So they're going to say and do some things, and we can use those as opportunities to help them learn to navigate the world and build empathy, right? Because I'd want to sit down with my kid. I'm like, well, how do you think they would have felt in that situation? How would you have felt if that was happening to you? And use those as just opportunities to help them grow.
Right.
As a kid, you're like,
Victoria's like, what are you guys talking about?
I zoned out through most of them.
What? Not paying rapt attention to me.
No.
I'm not surprised. I mean, what would you tell? Ooh, because you're seeing kiddos now.
Ugh.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody came to you and was like, they're being mean to me. My friends are not they weren't, you know, the last 2 days. They won't let me sit at lunch with them.
That's not very nice.
It's not. Will you go beat them up for me?
No, that's not the right answer.
You sure? It would make me feel better.
What are other ways that will make you feel better?
Having you go beat them up?
Physical aggression is never the answer.
Look at you being all therapist-y.
Well done. What a good response. But you probably do have a completely different perspective on this than we do because obviously you're at a different phase of life and, you know, have just recently graduated college and, you know, so what are your thoughts on this?
I don't know. I don't even want to think about Mean Girls in school because that's just like a whole nother level. Currently, I just have to deal with Mean Girls online because like it's the entire internet. It's celebrities. It's everything. Like you can't escape it.
You can't. Because there's always, you know, and I think that's different than there's always like haters who make comments.
Right.
You know, like we're not like even on this, we're not everybody's cup of tea. You know, you've had some comments, you know, like it is what it is. Everybody has some different thoughts and opinions. But when people are doing things to affect your own relationships in your day-to-day world, I think that's maybe that's where it's a little bit different. Like you have your people posting and the haters versus, you know, although we do know like influencers have like lost all status because of, you know, a behavior they did and people get canceled.
Right.
But
It usually doesn't last.
What, being canceled?
Yeah.
They make it a comeback.
I don't know that anyone can successfully cancel anyone.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because your supporters are always going to support you, no matter your stupid decisions.
Well, and I think there's different levels of stupid decisions too. Maybe you'll still have followers, but maybe not the same amount of influence. But I go back to, you don't want to think about mean girls. Why? I mean, do you want to share? Like you said, you didn't want to. We don't have to get personal.
I'm not getting personal.
Okay.
It's ridiculous. I don't know. It's not worth the time.
Yeah. Well, and I think you just sort of go in there. It made me think like, okay, because you don't like drama. You do not like girl drama at all. Never have. Very pragmatic. And I think you've talked to your daughter same way.
Right. But I love this response.
Yeah.
Because you've learned to filter out and place importance on different things. And I think that's one of the life skills we hope we train our kids up for, is to learn and have the mindset and just the sense of belonging with the people that do matter. That yes, this is hard. Yes, I don't like it, but I don't really want to spend time talking about it because there are other things that are more important.
Yeah. And I think that can be a healthy way to cope, but I also don't want to dismiss or minimize that it still hurts.
Absolutely.
When you're the receiver of that.
Absolutely.
And I think, in relationships, sometimes those are some growth edges as you experience some of those, especially if you're on the receiving end. How do you start realizing and we have ways to say it, you start to learn who your friends are, what's important to you. And kids get through those, especially more the relational aggression types of things. More so, we know bullying can have more detrimental impacts, but it still hurts. And the impact of even the relational aggression, we know is the isolation, the depression, the lower self-esteem, and those types of things. And so it can still hurt as you're trying to cope and navigate with that.
Absolutely. Well, and especially, young kids, teenagers, even adults, the anxiety that develops out of anticipating what's going to happen next. I've put all these safeguards in place, especially as you move to relationships and, in school, I can remember one of my sisters talking about, I would go to school and not know who that day who was going to be my friend, because it changed every day depending on what was going on and who was doing what. And so, we're all adults now, but that continues today. And it's just, there's so many changes, and home lives are different and experiences are different, but it can snowball. Right. And so, part of it is teaching those skills of what do you do in those situations? And if you're not around safe people, how do you get through it? What are the tools you need to feel safe, feel like you can cope, feel like you can get through those moments where you feel like things are falling apart. Yeah. So there's just so many opportunities in this topic. And I think at all age levels, particularly adults, just to provide the resources and the safe spaces and, the room for accountability to be I need to work on this too. Right. It's easy to fall into those patterns of being mean to others and, but you can take a step back and also think is that really the person I want to be? Is that what I want to model for others? Yeah.
Well, and I think as any of us in any situation, we don't get our communication 100%. Our relationships are never 100% right or on par. And so a lot of it is, what are we putting out there? And then reflecting oh, did I say, or where did that come from? Why did I say what I said? Or why did I say this way to you? What was going on inside of me that the way it came out, I could tell it caused some hurt or something. And so I think that that's that constant work that we do on ourselves as we try to reflect and become the person that we want to be. And creating a space that we don't always get it right, but that we can come back and we can repair and reconnect. And you used a word that I sort of like, which is the tools, right? So if we think of the tools for relational aggression or that mean girl, right? They're going to use the tools of gossip, social media, ostracism, like you're not included, so excluding types of things. Those are the tools that, right, these behaviors that they're going to use to be aggressive and to really try to weaponize those relationships. So then when we think about, we also have the power to use tools to do the opposite. So when we think about what kind of tools can we use to actually create relationships that feel safe, supportive, kind, and caring. And so it's really, again, they're tools and behaviors, but a lot of times there's a lot of similarities of just how we're intending to use them and what we end up doing. So what tools would you use to create a safer space?
I don't know. Don't put me on the spot like that.
Really?
Yeah, that's mean.
Are you telling me?
Are we having a mean girl moment in the mean girl episode?
Yes.
How am I weaponizing this relationship, trying to include you in the conversation?
Putting me on the spot.
But I think, especially some of our listeners, I think sometimes parents, this is what we've heard so far as far as feedback from our listeners is parents and clinicians, they like to sort of hear our voice, but they really also like to hear your voice because it helps them know how to relate to, their own daughters or nieces, their own clients. And then when we hear younger people, they're not really caring what we're saying. They're really looking at what you're saying more. So I think what your thoughts are.
Maybe I should start watching what I say more.
Maybe, but I don't think so. I think you're
I think your perspective is valuable in where you're at in life and the phase of life and what you see and what you experience. Because it's very different than ours as, middle-aged moms in the workforce and what there's a lot of similar patterns of the things we experience, but how we process and deal with them and our worldviews are so different.
Right. And I also think, your range of responses, because you're either I have no thoughts whatsoever, and you just sort of go with it, and then all of a sudden, yeah, I have thoughts about that, and it's and it's you go, girl. It's and I think that is so true for a lot of our younger individuals is whatever, they have no, and then they have strong opinions about those things, and they are going to let us know exactly what they think.
Well, I don't have strong opinions about whatever question you asked.
Obviously.
Because I don't even remember the question.
And that's okay, we can move on. But I mean, when you think about this topic about mean girls or weaponizing relationships, sort of like what you said with that TikTok, because that, like I said, that's all sort of messed up. A part of me wants to break that down and y'all, we can do better.
You're no better than them, and actually you're kind of worse because you're a grown-ass woman.
Yeah, you said what I was thinking with that. And, but then my heart also breaks for that mama because it is so painful. It is more painful watching my kid having experiences. Right, go to therapy or I'll meet up with my friends or whatever. But that's the work that I need to do. And so you want to do something, but it's hold on, what does my child need to see me do? And my child certainly does not need to see me drop off Starbucks for everyone.
Stooping down to their level.
Yeah. No, I just, like I said, I don't think I think it would be somewhat normal to have those thoughts and those sort of
Absolutely.
snarky, vindictive, like whatever. And then it's like, no, hold on. They're kids.
Right. The rational side, looking more
and then
objectively at what's going on.
And then my question is always going to be, what does my child need? What do I want to model, and what do they need? And maybe they need time with their friends. So instead of spending money on Starbucks or whatever, I might say, hey, are there a couple of friends that you want to get together with this weekend, and we'll go to the coffee shop, or we'll go do this, but include, creating some maybe more diverse relationships, like maybe.
And not buying friendships.
Yeah, not buying. True. I mean, you don't have to buy things for that. I'm just trying to think. It's wintertime here, so we're limited to mostly indoor activities, which are probably going to involve purchasing something. Because I don't think if I suggest do you want to get a couple friends together and go meet up at the library? That would not be your cup of jam. But so
if you want to play board games.
See, and then that's part of that conversation. Do you have a couple friends that you want to bring over and we'll play some board games or something? So that, like you said, normal responses to protect, defend, join in the snarkiness, type of thing. But then ultimately it's, what does my child need? And it's obviously so I'm going to go to, how do I increase those protective factors, which is the relationships, potential adult intervention, checking in, making certain that you have the support you need, and that and the conversations like, this really sucks. Like when friends do this to you, right? That's normal. Like, it's going to feel yucky. I'm sorry it feels yucky. But that feeling will hopefully pass. And we got to look at how can we create other friendships where you can get some of those belonging needs met. Mm-hmm. But at no point could I see.
No, you model the behavior that you hope to instill for the type of person you want them to be. So obviously you could match that, right? You could match that behavior. You could probably go further than matching it a lot of times, but it's a conscious choice of, no, like, this is horrible, providing the safe space for your child. Like, let's talk through this. How hard was it? That must have been awful. Like, teaching empathy in those moments of, demonstrating it. And then, like, okay, so are those people you want to hang out with anyway? Yeah. Like, are those the qualities of a good friendship? But, as parents, like, we have to step it up, and we have to see that there's an opportunity here. A lot of times we're missing because we want to feel good in the moment.
And as you were talking, it made me think too, like, just even working with some clients in some of these situations, because again, this is a common occurrence. How much, when we think of the mama, or typically, like the dads, I don't see as much. So the dad would be like, oh, so what? The friends didn't play with you. Just go play with other people, right? Because that's what, like, guys just seem to be able to do that on the playground much more than females. Again, this is not all 100% with the gender differences, but the part of me, when we think about the mama who has those thoughts and those reactions and then follows through, because we are seeing this a lot more, that the parent joins in on the mean girlness sort of stuff. And then where does it ever end? But the part of me goes back to what got triggered in you, mama? Right? There's the defense and the protective. But then at some point, the rational mind comes in. But if it's not coming in and you're not being able to make that distinction, like, okay,
why
I'm a grown
are we
woman.
defending the moms?
I'm not. I'm trying to say that I think sometimes they get triggered and they're not doing their own work and they're perpetuating this, and it gets worse.
Right. And it's not defending them. I think from, like, my point of view and what I'm hearing, it's like we're trying to understand the why behind it. What is happening in this person's life, or what experiences have they had that they need to react in this way? And sometimes, like, not even thinking about like the outcome, right? Like they react and they do what feels good in the moment, but as far as the long-term impact.
Yeah, but there's a whole lot of time that had to pass between my daughter just told me that these girls
Very
were being
true.
mean to me devising this plan to, you know what I'm saying? Usually within about 10 minutes, rational. Like I said, very normal to have some initial snarky thoughts. But within 5 to 10 minutes, rational mind, wise mind start to kick in, going, okay, you know. But the difference for me is I think it becomes very personal. So it's no longer about their own kid. It's about what they experience themselves and what they're trying to make certain their kid never experiences or this or that. And it's like, do your own healing.
Exactly.
Figure, like, why is this reaction coming up so strong for you? How are we differentiating yourself from your own child's experiences? And that's hard. I catch myself in it. And when we catch ourselves, it's like, hold on a second.
So do I. And
These
you
are
take a step back.
You do. And you realize these are experiences. Hopefully they're not, you know, trauma induced. I mean, those are whole different level of ball games that I'm talking about.
Right.
But
right.
Our children are going to have what we would probably consider some normal experiences of not being accepted, not being liked, not being valued in the way that I think my child should be. And with that, they've got to learn to navigate that because not everybody is going to like your child.
That's just life.
That is just life. And it's okay. Like, you shouldn't probably like everyone. Because, I mean, we're just different.
We're different. But how many people don't think that, right? We are raised like that.
Everybody should like me. I'm amazing. I'm fantastic. My mommy tells me so.
Yes.
I am glad that's ingrained. No.
Do you believe that? Right.
I really don't care if you like me, to be honest.
Right. But I think that's been part of some of our conversations. Like, I wish everybody could see the amazingness in you. But we've also talked about this in the past. Sometimes we're just seeing snippets of people. And when you're only seeing this snippet of you and your personality in this moment, they're not getting to experience other ways. And we're also very different in different situations too. And, you know, so we're not everybody's cup of tea. It's okay. You just have to find a few people who are your people. But I don't know that everybody has some of those messaging. And I think that's also increasing to overall anxiousness in our younger generations because everybody must like me. I must please everybody. They have to see how amazing and smart and talented, and I have to be the best at everything I do. And oh my gosh, that's exhausting and overwhelming. And there's no way that can be sustained ever.
No, it can't.
But I think sometimes somehow we perpetuate this thinking in our kiddos.
Well, we reward it.
We do.
Know?
And I think, you know, like the hard part is like we know being actively involved in things, like a lot of that increases self-esteem. Those are protective factors against some of these other things like the mean girl, right? When we look at kindness, we talked about words of affirmation, you know, being recognized for accomplishments and different things like that. Like those are all good things. I think I wonder if where we maybe miss the mark sometimes is we don't ever stop and start asking ourselves, why am I doing what I'm doing? Right? If I'm a 12-year-old, if I'm a 15-year-old, why am I doing these things?
I don't think 12 and 15-year-olds have the capability to stop and think that.
No, but that's where as adults,
right?
I think
you have to be coaching. Like, you know, kids need help learning.
Parents don't do that. Y'all are psychology people. You're therapists.
That sounds familiar to me.
You think in those sort of ways, but the average individual does not think in those ways.
That's very true.
That's true. But I mean, But I do want to understand, like, when you want to do this activity, tell me why. What is it you're hoping to get with that? And I do have a
Why not
rule.
just let me do it?
Just let you do it. I know, but I want to know why.
It doesn't always need a why.
Well, it does if it's taking my time and money and, like, we're going to commit. Because also, I need to know your why, because 2 months later, I don't want to go anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. Well, you wanted to do this because of this and this. And you committed, at least for this
Or did
season.
I just tell you what you wanted to hear?
Well, that's very possible. Possible, because you learned.
True.
She prepared PowerPoints for me to convince me, or my son would write, I've got 10 reasons why you should let me do that. They learned
They learned how to sell their ideas.
They did, and that's okay. Like, that's a good
all
way
good
of thinking.
skill sets, all good life skills.
So...
But that gets back to, like, us understanding the why with the balance of, like, taking account, like, readiness and, like, our child, like, maybe they just need to do this to have some fun and meet some new people. And, So I hear what you're saying with we can go too far, like, in our mindsets.
We do.
With the balance. But I think, too, it does need to be about your why and not about our why as a mom or a parent, right? Like, what's best for you and where you're at, and, developing your skills and your personality and the friendships that are healthy for you. So, which goes back to the protective factors against, some of this too is, kids being in situations that they always don't want to be in.
Right.
Or pushed into friends groups they don't always want to be in. Because they're the kids to be with in the moment. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of cycles.
I think, and then you were saying something that made me start to think too, that yes, as parents raising children, part of what our children do and the activities that they're in become part of our identity also as a parent.
Right.
Like, I'm whether I'm a band mom or I'm a basketball mom or whatever, like, then that's also how the people that you're starting to hang out with.
That becomes your social group.
It becomes your social group too. Mm-hmm. And so then when sometimes your child who no longer wants to do some of those things, or, and a lot of it sometimes is because of the friend groups. Those are not the people they have the same interests. Maybe they're being ostracized or, not included in some things. And I think that can be hard as parents for us to recognize some of that. Mm-hmm. And how do we create that space as parents so that we can see what's happening with our kids and hearing those things and making certain that we're distinguishing that this is really their life and that sometimes their interests will change and evolve, mm-hmm. which may mean our identity sort of shifts and evolve too.
Right. Right. But that's where we as adults need to be able to separate, like, our roles, right? And be there in the moment for our kids and what they need versus what we need. And it's tough.
It is.
It's hard.
So I know one of the other reasons we picked this topic is because
Random Acts of Kindness Day is February 17th.
And so there's this whole week devoted to the random acts of kindness.
It's just a day.
Well, no, there's an actual day, but then they sort of set the whole week to do that. At least that's what I read. How does that even rate an eye roll?
I'm like, is this one of the made-up things ChatGPT told you?
No, this was Google. Like just a plain Google search.
Right.
But I think every day should be Random Acts of Kindness Day.
You would. I love that about you, Lydia.
I love doing just little things that probably no one notices. But I'm like, that might make someone smile. Or
I think we do notice.
That might make someone's day just a little bit better.
So what are some of the things that you like to do as these little random acts of kindness?
I don't know. Like around my house, I do little things like sometimes I'll just pick up things or make, like, what is going to make everyone's life a little bit easier? Or what's what's a little note I can leave in a place that will make someone feel loved today? Or what's a note I can send to someone to be encouraging? Like, you don't have to spend money. You don't have to, like, go over the top. It doesn't have to be a big plan. It's just, like, literally making someone feel loved and, like, someone is watching out for them.
I love that. Have you done the love language quiz?
I did. That was my husband and I actually did that before we got married.
And words of affirmation and acts of service are your top two?
Yeah. But
Did you catch that as she was talking?
I kind of think it changes too. And I think too, and this might get into our therapist side of things, but I mean, I think you learn to, in your relationships, like, what do people need to feel whole?
Yes.
And in those moments, those hard moments, like, what do they need to keep going and feel encouraged and feel like this is too overwhelming, but, like, I know I can do it because I've got my people behind me that have my back. And so, like, that's the broader part of it all, but, like, it can be broken down into just simple little things.
Yeah. So I hear you saying with the random acts of kindness, especially in your own social network, your people, your family, that these are little notes, little things that lighten their load. Those are things that you're always looking for opportunities to do.
And it's not,
Love it.
It's usually not a big deal.
It's not, but even around here, we love the Lydia notes.
Well. And if you're lucky, you get a drawing sometimes.
Yes, we love them. Because they are. I mean, and I do. I mean, I think it is the little things like that, knowing your heart, like knowing you and the heart and what you did with it. It's like, oh, it just sort of makes you smile when you do it. And when you're going throughout your day and you're so busy and you've got all these things to do, I think sometimes those little things that you see, it's like, oh, yes. You know, at least I like those little things. For you, it's bringing you coffee. That's the way to her heart.
Yeah, that's good. That's
and
good.
Little things.
But it's just knowing those things about each other and, like, spending the time in your relationships to know the people around you well enough that you can do those. Like, refocusing your time and attention on the goodness of things versus, like, all the hard things that happen all the time.
What about, because I think a lot of us, as we get to know the people who are close to us, like, that makes sense. But are there opportunities when we think about other random acts of kindness that we can do, maybe people in our broader circle? Like, I'm thinking those teachers in the classroom or the mom stopping in the classrooms. Like, are there other, things like driving through? It's been a while since I haven't driven through the coffee lines in a while, but every once in a while paying for the one behind you start to see that type of thing. And that's always nice to be sort of on the receiving end or paying it forward or, like there's a lot of food banks happening right now.
Yes.
So
it kind of goes back to, I've done a lot of volunteer work. So it's like time, talent, and treasure, right? And we all have different ways to give them, depending on where we're at in life. Sometimes we don't have the money to donate or the money to buy the coffee. But we could open the door for someone with their hands full going into or out of the coffee shop. And that is so helpful and kind, and a smile and say, have a good day. Like, those little moments can be game changers for people.
Yeah.
So it's just like realizing, like, what you can give and give with a kind and loving heart, and then finding those opportunities when they present themselves or actively seeking them. So it's just having an awareness of what you can do to have those positive impacts.
Yeah. What would you say, especially thinking for young people, that they enjoy maybe being on the giving and receiving end of random acts of kindness? Like, what would you see as a random act of kindness at your age? Because what we might see at our age might feel very different at your age.
Absolutely.
We know delivering you a coffee, but besides that,
we don't need to bring up my coffee addiction every single time, especially when I'm thinking about coffee because I haven't had coffee. Anyways, I don't know.
You don't know?
Probably holding a door open.
You do like that?
Listen, you didn't ask me what I like.
Or what people your age would see as a random act of kindness. Yes. Sorry. The question was hard.
I don't go anywhere or do anything ever. So I'm thinking back to college. And then I'm like, okay, the only kind of random acts of kindness that were occurring there were like, oh, you dropped this, here you go. Or here, let me get the door for you.
So those are two simple things that people can do a lot.
Yes. Mm-hmm. You're stressing me out with this question.
Feels like a lot of pressure for you over there, Victorya.
Nothing. We don't do anything. We are not kind people.
That is not true.
Have you seen anything with your daughter, like that you've seen her do to be kind to other peers her age or that had been on the receiving end?
I think it's interesting to see her, and I'll get back to this, and I will be the first to say I am an imperfect parent and make a lot of mistakes, but it's when you see them model those positive behaviors that you hope they pick up on. I mean, you can tell your kids things and ask them to do things and encourage things so many times over and over, but the best way for them to learn is to watch you do it. And so when she does the little things like help someone without being asked, or she seeks out the child that's sitting by themselves and asks how their day is, or I'll explain a situation I was in and how I got through it. And then a couple days later, she tells me, like, probably unknowingly, but like she implemented those things and those ways of just, being a better person and, being present in the moment with people.
Yeah.
So, and we're definitely all works in progress. Like and I think that's the thing we have to remember is like, there's going to be days we're going to make the wrong choices sometimes, but, still being active and seeking out, like, how can I be more kind? How can I show love to others? Like, how can I be better at this? So it's interesting to see your kids, like, take on those traits that you hope you're doing a good job at.
Right.
Because I think we're always questioning, if we're doing the right thing and if we're making the right choices and if we're saying the words that our kids or whoever we're working with, we're trying to encourage, need to hear.
Yeah. I just, there was something that you said that made me think in terms of how, when we are thinking about how we use relationships and how we can give back. I'm not quite certain where I was going with that thought, but I ultimately think this is what this is, right? When we think about mean girls or mean people and weaponizing relationships, but then also realizing relationships are really hard. And one of the things that all of us have to do in as we grow and develop is thinking in terms of our relationships. Which ones do we want to keep? What do we do if we want to keep those? How do we navigate them? How do we compromise? How do we set our expectations so that it's a healthy reciprocal relationship? And then also how to navigate that really tough decision sometimes of how do we walk away from a relationship? And then the other part, which is more sometimes that devastating, how do I pick up the pieces when a relationship ended that I had no choice in? Right. And so I think it just goes back, relationships are challenging. And when it comes to this, we all have the power to decide how we want to weaponize relationships or how do we want to use relationships to create supportive, safe places for people to be with us.
Great. That's a great stopping point. What are your takeaways?
Oh, my takeaway is there's always so much more to learn, and I know learning comes first with me and in my mind and in my relationships and my life, like trying to do better. Also balancing like the realistic expectation of like, what is good for me isn't always good for others, and that my mindset is different and my perspective is different. So just the takeaway is to keep learning and keep trying to do better and even though sometimes it's so hard and you just want to quit, you don't want to keep going, you just kind of take a breath and take a moment and reset and, be willing to stay open-minded and meet people where they're at.
I think for me, along the lines of what you said, Lydia, which is just how important the process of self-awareness and self-reflection is, and that balance. Like, we don't want to overanalyze what we've said and done. But I do think it's important to think about how did people experience me in that moment, and how can I build on that, or is there anything I need to maybe come back to and repair? So that constant, like, how can that constant work in progress to always want to become the person that I want to be. And I think it's something that I have to always be working on, that I'm showing up in my relationships the way that I want to be in them.
I'm just going to be direct and straightforward with this. Mean girls are going to be mean. That has little to do with you and everything to do with them.
Wow.
That's all I got.
Good. Wise words.
Thank you.
Very wise.
Really tried there. Okay.
All right.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. Bye.